Welcome to my channel, Hotspot with Loveth, the ultimate spot for all things entertainment, ranging from celebrity gists, reviews, interesting stories, and African folktales. Subscribe now.
The city of Lagos never truly sleeps, but in the quieter hours of the night, it offers a different kind of solace to those who crave peace. Evelyn Roberts was one of those people. A graphic designer who often found herself working late into the night, she cherished the cool breeze and the distant hum of the city as she unwound on her small balcony. It was her sanctuary, a place where she could let her mind drift away from the pressures of her demanding job. In the adjacent apartment, Michael Lawson, a corporate lawyer, shared a similar habit. His workdays were long and stressful, and the late hours on his balcony provided a much-needed escape. Here, he could sip his drink, reflect on the day, and simply breathe. One warm night, as both Evelyn and Michael were on their balconies, a sudden power outage plunged the neighborhood into darkness. The usual city lights flickered out, leaving only the faint glow of the moon and stars to illuminate the area. Startled by the abrupt change, both stepped to the edge of their balconies, peering out into the now shadowed surroundings. "Looks like we're in for a long night," Evelyn remarked to herself, her voice carrying across the still night air. "Tell me about it," came a deep voice in response, startling her slightly. Evelyn looked around but could only make out the silhouette of a figure on the balcony next to hers. "Power's out," Michael continued. "Guess it's just you, me, and the stars." Evelyn chuckled softly. "Seems that way. I suppose we're both night owls." "Guilty as charged," Michael replied with a smile in his voice. "I'm Michael, by the way." "Evelyn," she responded. "Nice to meet you." "Well, sort of." Their brief conversation, sparked by the shared experience of the blackout, flowed easily despite the fact that they couldn't see each other clearly. The anonymity of the darkness created an unexpected comfort, allowing them to speak freely without the usual social constraints. As the night wore on, they found themselves discussing everything from the unpredictable nature of Lagos to their mutual love for the quiet of the night. It was a simple exchange, but it left both feeling a little less alone in the vastness of the city. Eventually, the power returned, and with it, the bright lights of the neighborhood. "Well, I guess that's my cue," Michael said as the street lights flickered back on. "Good night, Michael," Evelyn replied, smiling into the darkness. "Good night, Evelyn," he echoed, stepping back into his apartment with a sense of contentment. Neither of them realized it yet, but this brief encounter would be the start of something much deeper. In the nights that followed the power outage, Evelyn and Michael found themselves drawn back to their balconies, anticipating the easy conversation that had begun so unexpectedly. The darkness, coupled with the anonymity it provided, created a unique space where they felt free to share more than they might in the harsh light of day. Their talks became a nightly ritual, covering everything from the daily routines to the deepest aspirations and fears. Evelyn spoke of her love for art and the pressures of freelancing, while Michael opened up about the demands of his legal career and his dream of one day escaping the corporate grind. They discussed favorite books, the quirks of city life, and even childhood memories, laughing at the similarities and marveling at the differences. Despite the growing connection between them, neither had any idea that the person they were confiding in was someone they passed by almost daily. In the comfort of the night, they were simply two voices in the dark, gradually forming a bond that felt both intimate and strangely liberating. As their late-night conversations deepened, Evelyn and Michael found themselves drawn to the freedom that came with their anonymity. The idea of knowing too much about each other seemed to break the spell of their connection, so they made an unspoken pact to keep things mysterious. They avoided exchanging names or personal details, opting instead to refer to each other playfully as night owl and late sleeper. This decision turned out to be liberating. Without the weight of their real identities, they felt more comfortable sharing the dreams, fears, and innermost thoughts. Michael spoke about his frustration with the relentless demands of his career and his fear of being trapped in a life he didn't choose. Evelyn opened up about her struggles with self-doubt, the loneliness that sometimes accompanied her freelance work, and her fear of never living up to her own expectations. Their conversations became a nightly escape, a place where they could explore parts of themselves they hadn't shared with anyone else. The mystery of not knowing who the other person was added an element of excitement, making each night feel like a new chapter in a story they were writing together. As their bond grew, so did the unspoken understanding between them. Whatever this was, it was special, and neither wanted to spoil it by revealing too much too soon. In the daylight hours, Evelyn and Michael unknowingly crossed paths more often than they realized. They shared the same apartment complex, often riding the elevator together or exchanging brief greetings at the local grocery store. Their encounters were typical of neighbors who barely knew each other: polite nods, a quick smile, and then back to their respective routines. Evelyn, with her headphones on, would be lost in thought about her latest design project, while Michael, always on his phone, would be mentally preparing for his next meeting or court appearance. Their minds were elsewhere, preoccupied with the demands of the busy lives, and neither gave much thought to the other. Occasionally, they would stand side by side in the elevator, both staring at their phones, unaware that the person next to them was the same one they confided in during those late-night conversations. The contrast between the distant, daytime interactions and the intimate connection they shared under the cover of darkness was stark, yet neither of them noticed the irony. As they went about the days, Evelyn and Michael continued to unknowingly brush past each other, the daytime interactions remaining as ordinary as ever. Little did they know that the person who brought them comfort in the quiet hours of the night was much closer than they could have ever imagined. As the nights passed, Evelyn and Michael's late-night conversations evolved into a cherished routine. No matter how stressful or chaotic the days had been, they knew they could look forward to those quiet hours on their balconies. The darkness and the anonymity had created a safe space where they could be themselves, without the masks they wore during the day. For Evelyn, the talks were a balm for the loneliness that sometimes accompanied her freelance work. The isolation of working from home had often made her feel disconnected from the world, but now, she had someone to share her thoughts and frustrations with. Michael's voice in the darkness became a source of comfort, a steady presence she could rely on. Michael, too, found solace in their exchanges. The pressures of his legal career often left him feeling drained and overwhelmed. But in those late-night conversations, he found a sense of understanding and connection that had been missing from his life. He could express his fears and doubts without judgment, and Evelyn's calm, thoughtful responses helped him see things from a new perspective. The anticipation of the nightly talks became a highlight of the days. As evening approached, they would both find themselves glancing at the clock, waiting for the moment they could step out onto their balconies and reconnect. In the daylight, however, their interactions remained mundane and disconnected. They continued to pass each other in the hallway or share the occasional elevator ride, never suspecting that the person they were growing so close to at night was the same one they barely noticed during the day. The contrast between their ordinary daytime interactions and the deep, meaningful connection they shared at night was striking, but the comfort they found in their midnight talks kept them from questioning it too deeply. One evening, as they settled into the usual late-night conversation, Evelyn mentioned an incident that had happened earlier in the day. "You won't believe this," she said with a chuckle. "I was in the elevator today, and it got stuck between floors for a few minutes. I was almost late for a meeting because of it." Michael, leaning back in his chair, felt a flicker of recognition. "That's funny," he replied. "I was in an elevator that got stuck today too. Same building, maybe." Evelyn laughed. "What are the odds, right? Must be something in the air." They both laughed it off as a strange coincidence, but the moment lingered. Michael couldn't shake the feeling that something was oddly familiar about Evelyn's story. Meanwhile, Evelyn found herself wondering if it was really just a coincidence or if there was more to it. The connection between their experiences nagged at them both, like a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit but was close enough to make them question it. Despite their attempts to brush it aside, the familiarity of that shared incident began to tug at their thoughts, hinting at a truth they were not yet ready to confront. As the days turned into weeks, Evelyn and Michael began to notice more coincidences slipping into their late-night conversations. It started with small details, like how they both complained about the same noisy neighbor or praised the street food vendor who always set up shop outside their building. The more they talked, the more these similarities began to pile up. One night, Evelyn mentioned grabbing a quick bite from her favorite suya stand, and Michael responded with, "Oh, I know that place. The vendor always adds just the right amount of spice, doesn't he?" Evelyn paused, a spark of recognition flickering in her mind. "Yeah, exactly," she replied slowly, her thoughts racing. Another night, Michael talked about running into someone carrying too many groceries in the lobby and offering to help. It was a bit of a chaotic scene, he joked. The person nearly dropped everything. Evelyn felt a jolt of surprise. She'd had a similar experience just days before. That sounds a lot like what happened to me recently, she said, her voice tinged with curiosity. These coincidences became harder to ignore, but both Evelyn and Michael hesitated to voice their suspicions. The mystery of their connection had become a cherished part of their relationship, and neither wanted to shatter the illusion just yet. They danced around the idea, each privately wondering if the person they shared the deepest thoughts with at night could really be someone they encountered daily. The possibility thrilled and unnerved them in equal measure, leaving them both on the edge of a revelation they weren't quite ready to face. One evening, after yet another conversation filled with uncanny coincidences, Michael found himself unable to shake the feeling that the mystery needed to be resolved. As they chatted about the days, he took a deep breath and spoke up, his voice betraying a hint of nervousness. "Night Owl, do you ever wonder who I am? I mean, really am?" he asked, his words lingering in the quiet night air. Evelyn hesitated, her heart skipping a beat. She had wondered, of course, more times than she cared to admit. But the anonymity had become a comfort, a shield that allowed them to share so much without the complications of real life. Yet, now that the possibility of knowing the truth was within reach, she couldn't deny her curiosity any longer. "Honestly, late sleeper, I do wonder," she admitted softly. "But part of me is scared that if we know, it might change things." Michael understood her hesitation, he felt it too. But the pull of finally seeing the person behind the voice was too strong. "What if we meet, just once, in the daylight? We could meet at that cafe on the corner, the one with the outdoor seating. Tomorrow morning, say around 10. Evelyn's pulse quickened at the thought. The idea of meeting him, of possibly discovering that he was someone she already knew, was both thrilling and terrifying. But after a moment's pause, she found herself nodding, even though he couldn't see it. "Okay," she agreed, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. Tomorrow at 10. As they said the good nights, the reality of what they had just agreed to began to sink in. Both Michael and Evelyn spent the rest of the night tossing and turning, their minds racing with possibilities. What if he wasn't who she expected? What if she wasn't what he hoped for? Yet, beneath the nerves was a growing excitement, a sense that something significant was about to happen. The next morning, as they each prepared to head to the cafe, their thoughts were consumed by what lay ahead. The familiar anonymity that had been so comforting was about to give way to the unknown, and with it, the potential for a connection even deeper than the one they had already forged. The next morning, Evelyn arrived at the cafe early, her nerves jangling with each step. She scanned the bustling outdoor seating area, her eyes darting around for any sign of her anonymous confidant. She had dressed carefully, hoping to present herself well, but every detail felt trivial compared to the enormity of the moment. Michael, equally nervous, approached the cafe with a mix of anticipation and dread. He had chosen a simple table in the corner, hoping the seclusion would make the first meeting less overwhelming. As he neared the cafe, he spotted Evelyn already seated, her eyes scanning the crowd. When their eyes met, both felt a jolt of recognition that was almost palpable. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat as she realized the person she had been talking to for weeks was Michael, the neighbor she had seen in passing but never really noticed. Michael's face mirrored her shock. "Evelyn," he said, disbelief evident in his voice. "Michael," Evelyn replied, equally stunned. They sat down, an awkward silence stretching between them as they tried to process the reality of their situation. The cafe's lively atmosphere seemed to fade into the background as they took in the absurdity of the moment. Michael chuckled first, breaking the tension. "Well, this is unexpected. I had no idea you were, you." Evelyn laughed, shaking her head. "And I never would have guessed you were, you. It's so strange to finally put a face to the voice I've been confiding in." Their laughter, though a bit nervous, was genuine. As they started discussing their surprise, they realized how the daily interactions had been filled with unrecognized familiarity. Michael recalled the times they had shared the elevator, and Evelyn remembered the brief encounters in the hallway. Despite the initial awkwardness, they found themselves falling back into the comfortable rhythm of their late-night conversations. They recounted stories and experiences, marveling at the small coincidences that had brought them together. As their conversation flowed more naturally, the relief of finally knowing each other face to face replaced the initial shock. They both expressed how much they had valued their anonymous exchanges and were grateful for the connection they had formed. "I have to admit," Evelyn said with a smile, "this is a lot more comforting now that I know who I'm talking to." "Absolutely," Michael agreed. "It's nice to finally see the person behind those amazing late-night talks." As they finished their coffee, the bond they had developed in the darkness of the night felt even stronger in the light of day. Their newfound familiarity added a new layer to their relationship, one built on both the mystery they had shared and the genuine connection they had forged. With their identities revealed, Evelyn and Michael found themselves navigating a new chapter in their relationship. The initial shock of their revelation quickly gave way to a sense of comfort and excitement. They continued to enjoy their late-night balcony conversations, but now those talks were complemented by daytime meetings and dates, each outing adding a new layer to their connection. The days were filled with leisurely coffee dates at the cafe where they first met, strolls through local markets, and shared meals at their favorite eateries. These daytime interactions allowed them to explore each other's interests and personalities beyond the anonymity of the night. Evelyn introduced Michael to her favorite art galleries, while Michael took Evelyn to his favorite sports events. Each new experience brought them closer, deepening their bond and revealing new facets of their personalities. Yet, the nighttime conversations remained a cherished part of their relationship. They continued to retreat to their balconies after busy days, finding solace in the quiet hours and the familiar comfort of the nightly talks. It was a special time they treasured, a reminder of how their connection had started and evolved. As their relationship grew, they embraced the blend of their new daytime reality with the intimacy of their late-night conversations. The mystery that had once set the stage for their connection had transformed into a rich, multifaceted relationship. Their bond, forged in the quiet darkness and strengthened in the light of day, became a testament to the unexpected ways in which people can find and connect with each other. The story concluded with Evelyn and Michael reflecting on their journey with gratitude and joy. They were happy to have found each other in such an unusual and serendipitous way. The surprise of their connection and the deepening of their relationship became a reminder of the beauty of discovery and the joy of embracing the unexpected. They looked forward to their future together, content in the knowledge that the unique and profound connection had blossomed into something truly special.